Okay, so we've got our Mark 7 GTI completed for this day anyway. Most of it was seen in the workshop. There's a few bits that weren't done at the time. Engine bay, we've put a catch can on now, and there's a few other things that have been done as well. I'll show you around the suspension and stuff so you can see. Brake kit, RS29s, which we went through in the workshop. We've got the Seat Sport studs, the same studs that we run on the TCR car. Yellow speed DPS with the yellow speed drop links. We've got some KW damper deletes because this car had electronic dampers. We've basically, you have to fit these, otherwise the traction doesn't work basically. So they're just to fool the car into thinking that it's still got them on, so the traction control still works. Underneath, we've got the RacingLine arms. So set in the relatively same as the standard lower arm. Difference in roll centre because this is thicker, which is much better for a lowered car. Otherwise your arms are kind of pointing upwards when you lower it already, which is detrimental to the handling. It's not great at all. So big improvement, mainly with the roll centre at the moment because we've got the arms in the standard location. Aside from that, we've got the hell braided lines on. We have got a dog bone insert from Area Motorsport, which just ensures the engine mounts don't try and make a bid for freedom on track. And then we've increased the idle RPM just to get rid of the vibration at idle, so it feels like a stock car still on the road, no vibration or horrible noises from that. Moving on to the rear, I think that's everything on the front. Rear, we've got obviously brake pads, the EBC orange that we spoke about before, the hard race camber arms, damper deletes again have to go on the rear to fool the traction into not thinking it's got a problem like a faulty damper or something along those lines. We've got the Powerflex inner and outer bushes on the hub and on the inner spring arm. And then we've got some hard race bushes on the trailing arm, which again we didn't go through in the workshop, but there's a lot of flex in those. They're a large bush, very soft, lots of movement under compression and load, so we've changed those to ensure there's no abnormal movement which will change the geometry on the track. If you come around the back, you can probably see again something we didn't have at the workshop, I don't think. It's quite difficult to see, but we've got the hard race rear anti-roll bar on there, and then the white line adjustable drop links. So we dropped that on the scales at the workshop. Obviously roll bar's disconnected. Check the corner weights. It's pretty good straight out of the box with the platform heights level. Car weighed, it's got full interior apart from the seats inside, and weighed about 1340 kg with a full tank of fuel. Our race cars are about 1250, so it's not too bad considering it's a unmolested car that's just got some bucket seats changed and that's it. A few other things, we've got the Scorpion exhaust on now. Again, resonated system, perfect for 98 decibel track days like today. So no issues with noise at all. And then we've done a few aesthetic things. We've got a Riga diffuser, Club Sport spoiler. We've got the SRS Tech front bumper scoops and a TRC front lip, but they're really just cosmetic. They're not going to do anything for performance at all. I'll show you through the inside quickly. Interior, we've got a retrimmed steering wheel from Custom Controls, identical to a Club Sport wheel. Gives you a bit more grip on track, especially with your gloves on, so it's a much nicer feel. We've got the Cobra Nagaro bucket seats. They've done the red stitching on them, which matches, this car had leather, so matches all the red stitching that you've got on your door cards and stuff, so they're really nice. And then we've got a Race Logic lap timer in the centre, which will just give us some data. It's the same we use in the race cars, so we can almost compare this car to the race cars, see where the differences are. We know what the differences are with the chassis and the brakes and the power and stuff, but we can actually see it data-wise and see what the differences are between the two. Aside from that, I think that's about everything we've done. Obviously, you've seen all the parts laid out. We'll get out on track shortly on the PS4s to start with. We do have the AO52s, again, these are what we run on the race cars, so we're going to be comparing same tyre to the race car. It's not going to be any different at all. Have drove this car for about 20 miles on the road, and it drives brilliant, to be honest. You wouldn't have a problem taking it to the Nürburgring or driving it for long distances. It handles the bumps well, it's not uncomfortable. Under the bonnet, we've got relatively stock still. We've got the HPA intake pipe that they provided, and just a ram air intake, which is one we had lying around, just gives a bit more noise. We have got the very important catch can kit, which stops plumes of smoke coming out the exhaust from surge. So this is the plate that replaces the PCV valve, and it basically breathes back into there instead. So pretty essential to have that on track. I've seen plenty of people without them get black flagged, so quite important. Aside from that, it's all stock under here at the moment, which is what we want to do. Obviously, it's got the TI Motorsport Stage 1 map on it, 290-ish horsepower, or just, I think it's 290, 300 on the dyno. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so done 3 sessions on the Michelins now. Car feels brilliant. I mean, for a car, if it's your only car and you want to drive it on the road and come to the track with these tyres on, what we've done chassis wise, it's really the perfect package. Like, we know it's going to go faster on the AO52s, it's no doubt of that, but the balance of the car, the way it feels, the way it handles the track is just yeah, really pleased with it, really impressed with it. First session we were bedding brake pads in, and then the second one and the third one we pushed a bit, and yeah, can't fault it really.
wise, obviously we have a checker throughout the day, you know, spanner check, shake and wobble on the wheels and stuff. Nothing's come loose all day, no components have got play in them, so they've all worked really well. We've done about 160 litres of fuel, so quite a lot of fuel. Don't know what that equates to in laps, but a lot. And we're not shy of hitting curbs. I'm not shy, I'm used to driving cars on track, so really pleased with how all the components have worked. Data wise, we've got speeds here from kind of like the best lap on the Michelins and the best lap on the AO52s, and it shows what you expect really. The car generally drives the same throughout the lap, so this is like turn 1, Craners, old hairpin, so on, and you can just see the G that you can carry on the AO52s is more than the Michelins, which is what we expect to see. Doesn't take away from it driving well on the Michelins, it's just more grip, quick around the corners, and that's it really. Next video, so we'll be putting on all the parts that HPA have sent us, so really excited about that. We've got their turbo, intercooler, we'll probably get another set of tyres because these are about dead now, the semi-slicks. They were pretty dead when we put them on at the start of the day, so they're worse now. So yeah, we're going to come back here, same track, data logger in again, see what we can do with the HPA parts on, see how they perform on track, have a look at the temperatures again. We'll get the logger in there for those, and yeah, quite excited to see what it can do on those, but really pleased with the car today. You know, we haven't thrown a load of expensive parts on there. In chassis and brakes and stuff, we're probably about £3,000 in, which is, you know, everything. We've done arms, bushes, few spherical joints, roll bars, coilovers, engine mounts. There's a lot of stuff we've done. So for that sort of money, it can't really be beaten. The fact that it drives so well on the road and drives really well on the track as well. So, done our first day in the car. It was brilliant. A few things we didn't touch on and we really should have done at the day. So we're just going to do a little recap on things. Interior firstly. So the Cobra Nagaros, being a racer myself, I'm used to sitting in seats that are big wraparounds and they come up around your legs and hold you in really well. I sat in these after we fitted them, and being honest, I was unsure how they were going to feel on track. They feel really nice on the road, but they didn't feel like they had too much support. But in all honesty, I was blown away with them on track. You didn't feel like you were moving at all. We've got no harnesses in here, just a standard seat belt. I was driving it like a race car, so I wasn't driving it, at 70% or anything. And I was blown away by them, really. They're really the best seat I've ever sat in that's for a road and track car that's comfortable for day-to-day use, easy to get in and out of. So I was really impressed by them. Obviously, the only other thing we did on the interior was we had the steering wheel retrimmed by Custom Controls, just the same as a Club Sport. Gives you more grip when you're driving around. So yeah, they were really impressive. Interior wise, we hadn't really done much else. The car was full weight, still had the spare in. It's got Dyna audio, this car, so it's even got the sub in the boot. We've got the rear seats in. It's literally bone stock interior aside from the seats. So yeah, really impressed with those. Setup wise, so obviously we ran the car on the Michelins and on the AO52s. I think we did about 84 laps in total. We did about 25 of them on the Michelins, the rest were on the AO52s. Car, we've got 3 degrees on the front and about 2.5 degrees on the back camber wise. Toe is neutral on the front, so at 0, and we've got a slight bit out on the rear. Setup wise, it was really safe on track. For me personally, I would have it a bit looser, but we didn't want to do that because we want to show we want something that's perfect for everyone. We don't want something that's good for me because I've drove cars on tracks for years, and then we give it to someone with a setup like that on it, and it's unnerving and not stable and stuff. So we left it safe all day, and we left it at that. Temperature spread on the tyres. So Michelin's we did, well, all the runs we did about 15-20 minutes. The Michelin's spread with a pyrometer across the inside, middle and outside of the tyre. We had about a neutral spread on the front left on one run. The other run where it wasn't red flag, so we were able to come in the pits pretty hot straight off the track. We had about a 10-degree spread across the tyre, which is what we aim for. The right front was neutral. Normally on the race cars we'd stagger the cambers, so if there's a lot of right hand turns like there are at most UK circuits, we'd normally run more like whatever the pyrometer wants on the temperatures, but it would normally be about a degree less or half a degree less on the right hand side camber wise. We didn't do this on this because it's a road car. It's to be used on the road as well as the track, so everything's equal, cambers front and rear. When we went on to the AO52s, again it was very similar. We saw about a 5-degree spread across the front left. Front right was ever so slightly more, inside being hotter than the outside, but you expect that because, like I say, there's more right hand turns than lefts. So yeah, setup wise really good. We tried a few different damper clicks, but in general the car just went straight on the track. We drove it round on the setup it was on all day, made a few changes, but in general the car was just perfect straight out of the box, and we know that from testing that we've done with the other car in the previous year, so we know these components work well together. Yeah, so like I say, it's a conservative setup. It's a setup for everyone. We can fine-tune the Geo for driver preference, which is what we always discuss with customers when we do a setup on a car. But this was a very safe setup. You'll see from the video, there's no movement. It's extremely good down craner curves and places like that where cars can be twitchy. So yeah, I was really pleased with it on both sets of tyres, considering setup hasn't changed for either set. One thing we did notice was, which we knew already to be honest, GTI's, the DSG variant, the gearing is extremely long. So top speed we were hitting at Donington yesterday was about 120 down the back straight. But the problem with the gearing on these cars is third gear does about 80 mile an hour, and fourth gear does the best part of 130 mile an hour. Where that really hampers you is corners like Old Hairpin, which is down the bottom of Crane as the right hander. It's right between third and fourth gear. If you take the corner in fourth, you've got no acceleration out of it at all. It's so low in the rev range. If you take it in third, you have to slow your entry down a bit more to get third gear, so the car will actually change down to it. Then you're slightly slower through the corner than you'd want to be, and it's the same story in a few other places as well. So we address that on our race cars by fitting a DSG box out of another car. We will do that to this eventually as the series goes on. But you'll see from the video it does hamper it a little bit in a few places. But aside from that, reliability wise, with the map that TI Motorsport have done, like I said, we did 82 laps. No problems whatsoever. Power was good all day. We certainly saw what we know already. Oil temps after a 15-20 minute run crept up to about 130, 135, which is where we kind of backed off and came in the pits. So we'll address that with the RacingLine oil cooler that we've got to go on the car for the next time we go out. But yeah, aside from that, I was dead happy with the car. I don't think there's much that can rival it for the money spent on the chassis parts. Obviously base car dependent. It's just an extremely good car to use every day and go on track days as it is now. I've drove this round for the 3 days after the track day, and yeah, it's as good as you're going to get for a car that you can use for both track and road daily use. Track days, it's perfect. So the other thing we didn't touch on is we did various modifications with VCDS for track use. Most of it simple stuff, but anyone with these will know the traction control is very intrusive as standard. You can change some things in VCDS to basically get rid of that and turn it off. So we did that, changed a few things on the diff. You can change the brake balance with the booster setting, so we had to play with that. Ended up relatively close to where it is stock, but it is slightly different. And things like the XDS, so it has a system where it brakes different wheels through corners to act as kind of like a fake diff, if you like. So it'll brake various axle on the front, whether it's front left or front right, depending on what corner it is. We tried that off, we tried it on standard. There's 5 settings in VCDS, so we ended up leaving it as standard, which will increase brake wear a bit, but the car did feel better, so we left it there. Aside from that, only other things we've done is turn off stop start, because it's just annoying. I find it annoying as a system anyway, so we got rid of that. Aside from that, we left everything alone. Data wise, what we've got here is we've got 3 lots of data. We've got the car on Michelin's, we've got the car on AO52s, and then we've got one of our race cars which is also on AO52s. And the data kind of shows us what we were expecting. If I pick a particular corner like Old Hairpin, which is here, the red speed trace is the car on Michelin's, the blue is the car on AO52s, and the black is one of our race cars. And you can see what you'd expect really, that corner speeds, race cars the highest, AO52s are in the middle, and the Michelin's are at the bottom. If you look down at the lateral G again, you can see the difference that the car can pull lateral G. Again, red Michelin's, blue being the AO52s, and the black being the race car. Obviously the race cars have AO52s, the same tyre, but they're 30mm wider per side. The cars are much lighter. They're on suspension that's fully tuned for racing, so it would be horrendous on the road. So it's exactly what we expect to see, but the main thing is that the curves through the speed traces all follow. So you lose a little bit on exit, you lose a little bit mid-corner, you lose a little bit on braking, but it's all even across the board. So that was good to see. It's what we expected to see, but it just shows that the car drives well on either tyre without having to mess around with setup and stuff. It's not a problem to go on whichever one you want to. It's the same throughout the lap. There's no difference. I mean, we can even just zoom in a little bit to show it. But yeah, this is coming down into, you can take this corner, you can take this corner, they're all the same. Braking wise, relatively even, to be fair, between the road car that we've got outside, the red one, and the race car. Not much difference in braking, but you just can't pick up the power where the race car can to get through the corner, which is what we expect. So we've got a bit of data. This is one of the runs. You can basically see across the board intake temps, stock intercooler, stable between 44 and 40 degrees. It was about a 14 degree ambient day temperature wise. So stock intercooler at stage 1 power is no issue at all. Its efficiency is perfectly fine. It's not going to slow you down on track at that. I think these cars start to clip ignition at about 55 degrees, so well below that. Coolant temp, we know is an issue. We got up to about 114, which, we've had a few hot days with the race cars where they've run around at 118, 119. It's really not ideal. Oil cooler will certainly bring that down. We've got a larger DSG cooler that will go on it as well. So DSG temps were at 120, so not overly high, but because the water system cools the oil system, if we decrease the oil temperatures in the gearbox and the engine, it'll automatically bring down the coolant temperatures as well. So pretty much what we expected to see, but we know stage 1 power, your 300 brake is no issue with the stock intercooler at all. If it was a hotter day, it might get close to what you'd class as a limit, but in general, it's perfectly fine for doing 20-minute sessions. The oil temp was a real issue more than anything else.